Hi again, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of Let's Twist Again. It's a monthly deep dive live stream podcast where we go long to talk about a short-lived professional indoor soccer team from the late 1990s. My name is Ken Tomash, and I was the radio announcer for the Indiana Twisters through those 2 years, through their existence in the Continental Indoor Soccer League. And the second year, I was the team's media relations director. And what we do is every month, I dial up somebody who went through those 2 years with us, get their thoughts on that very interesting time in all of our lives, and check up on what they've been doing for the last 3 decades or so. We've got a really good show for you tonight. Thanks to all of you who are watching. If you have questions or comments, put them in the chat or in the comments on Facebook. But before we get started in earnest, ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That young man singing in 1997 is our guest here in 2025. He was the first player the Twisters ever signed, and he joins us from his home in suburban Los Angeles. George Crawford, how are you, sir?
I'm well. It's great to see you, Ken. Thanks for the surprise there. That's funny.
Do you still sing
I
or do
forgot all
anything
about
musical?
that. What's that?
Do you still sing or do anything musical?
No, I don't. You know, for a minute, right around the time of the Twisters was my heyday in everything entertainment, but now it's those days are long gone.
So it was a short-lived music career, but you did have a professional soccer career. That's why we have you on here tonight. You grew up in Indianapolis. When did you first pick up the game as a child?
So I was 7 or 8 years old, and I had been, since I could remember, asking my parents to play football. And I remember my parents telling me that, we want to wait till it's a school sport where the coaching will be better and more safe. But I think I broke them down at around age 7 or 8. And so my mom took me to Lawrence Park to sign up for football. The Mini Bears is what they were called there then, Little League football. And on an adjacent field, they had signups for soccer. And so in a last-ditch effort to prevent me from playing football, she says, hey, let's go over and see what they're doing over here. And so we do. She's waiting in line to fill out the forms. I make friends with a few of the kids that are there, and we start running around the soccer field, kicking the ball. And I remember running up to her and saying, hey, Mom, I want to try this. We'll try football next year, but let's try this year. And she was happy to hear that. And that's kind of how it all started there at Lawrence Park.
For folks who don't know, in Indianapolis, the Lawrence Township is very fertile ground for soccer. It's a really huge place for youth soccer. What kind of lessons did you learn there and then later in high school in Lawrence that kind of shaped not only your career, but that you've taken with you over these last many years?
I think Indianapolis and Lawrence specifically is this really kind of special place for youth sports. The community is a really kind of tightly knit community, and you get to know, everyone that's involved in the sport, from a coaching and playing standpoint. So I just remember, the first few coaches I had were dads, of my teammates, and they just cared. They wanted to support the kids and help them grow into the game and help them enjoy it, and it just made for a really fun and enjoyable kind of introduction to the game. So I'm grateful for that environment getting started there.
Now, if you're a soccer player in Indiana of any ability, it's almost expected that you'll go to Indiana University, just down I-65. McKinley Tennyson, obviously an exception. You probably played against him in high school, didn't you?
So McKinley and Key, we called him Key Tennyson, right, and my brother Lauren were on the same club team growing up. So I've known Key and his family, since the early days, since they were, 12, 13 years old. he was a phenomenal player, great athlete. He lives out in Los Angeles too, near where I am. I haven't seen him, but we're connected on social media. But yeah, he was the exception to the rule. Like you said, IU is the place to go.
Right. And because of that, I mean, obviously legendary coach, legendary program, legendary coach Jerry Yeagley. What was your recruitment like? Was it simple? Did you ever consider going anywhere else, or was that it?
I really wanted to go to IU. You go down they play on Friday and Sunday, and that was kind of the thing. IU is the best program. So to watch a good soccer game, travel an hour down to Bloomington, and growing up and through high school, those guys were giants. So I was focused on playing there, though wasn't really sure how that would work. Junior year, I went to an IU soccer camp. I was placed on a team during camp that was coached by John Trask. He was the assistant at that time. And after the week of camp, he said, "Hey, the big kahuna," which is what he called him at the time, "would like to speak to you." And my parents were there, and Coach Yeagley, said, "Hey, you had a good week at camp. Where would you like to go to school?" And I told him, of course, IU. I'd love to play there. And he said, "Well, we can't promise you anything. Can't promise you a spot on the team or any playing time, but we'll invite you into camp. Starting in August of your senior year, after your senior year." And so I did. So I showed up. And the rest is history.
And when Jerry Yeagley talks, he's had that way, just a powerful presence. And you definitely were listening to Coach Yeagley. Your team, especially, you were on some very good teams, especially the team your junior year in '94 made it to the College Cup. You beat UCLA in the semifinal. What made that team so good? Who are some of the names that we would recognize from that? Here you are against UCLA.
Oh, man. Brian Mazanoff, Todd Yeagley, who's now the coach at IU, Brandon Ward. Those are the first three names that come to mind. They were the center of our midfield, and Brian Mazanoff played in World Cup. Todd Yeagley was a 4-year All-American, and just excellent players. And Coach kind of built the team around those guys. And then Joel Shanker, who I think he played in the CISL, the same league as the Twisters. Very good player. There were a group of 8 or 9 players on that team that were just out of this world good, and we had a good time playing together. And so I think when you start with that core group in the middle, those three, and we built some good, had some good, piano carriers around those piano players, made for a good team.
As my friend Richard Broad likes to say, but also a very good team. Virginia was a very good team that year, and you guys lost to them in the finals. Not what you want as a Hoosier. You obviously want to win championships. Was that a really tough one to take?
It was tough. And I'll tell you what, anybody who played in that game on our side will remember, maybe 5 or 10 minutes into the game, Jeff Bannister was in on goal and was tackled in the box from behind. I think it was Clint P.A. who tackled him. And we lobbied for a PK. We never got it. We would have been up 1-0 in that game if we had gotten that call. But they ended up, Virginia had a great game plan. What appeared to be, stopping the flow of play. There were a lot of fouls in the midfield. Anytime Brian or Todd would touch the ball, they would get, chopped down, and they were the guys that we wanted the ball to get the ball to. And so late in the game, across from their left side, bounced right into the middle, and they knocked it in, and they won fair and square. But that I will not forget that game, and it was extremely frustrating and disappointing. But it's definitely a place that not many soccer players get to be. So I'm happy I was one of those players.
Now today, if you're going to be a pro, Some say you should skip college and turn pro as early as possible, maybe even during high school or as quickly as possible. That wasn't really a thing back in 1995. So how do you think that college soccer prepared you not only for your pro career, but life afterwards?
I say this to people from time to time. I think the skills I use in my life now, the education I received that I took out of college came mostly from that environment of playing soccer. And, those life skills that you learn, I use more than anything I remember learning in a classroom. You're working with a bunch of high performing individuals, as a team, working through adversity, working towards a goal. You have to problem solve, manage personalities and relationships. You have to work under pressure. You have to get very accustomed to working under criticism, working in an environment of high expectation, and working even when you feel great and when you don't. All of those things that I use today in life, came from my time on the field, and specifically Indiana was a huge kind of, a big piece of that.
Now, I have to bust your alma mater's chops here a bit because they have this on their website, this list of Hoosiers in the pros. They don't list the indoor guys. They don't list guys who played in D2 and D3 back before lower level soccer became chic. So if anyone's watching from IU, whether it's live or later, I mean, Ernie Yarborough should be on this list as well. He should be watching, maybe whether it's live or later. Hopefully he's watching. So somebody needs to rectify this down in Bloomington. But so anyway, you're halfway through your senior year then at IU. This new indoor soccer team pops up in Indianapolis, and I am dying to hear the story of how they reached out to you or how that whole thing happened, whereby you became the first player in team history. They announced your signing the day they announced the franchise was coming, so it was obviously in the works. Tell us that story. I'm really keen to hear.
It's an interesting story. Interesting question, because the details of that time are a little unclear. I don't remember exactly how it came up. I heard kind of through the word of mouth, like everybody else did, hey, Indianapolis might get this professional soccer team. And then some of the people who I knew who were, working with Indiana youth soccer and were friends of the family, started talking to me about, hey, give this some thought. And of course, coming out of the idea, I do remember this. Everyone had this idea of, making Indianapolis a soccer town, one that could support a professional soccer team. And this was kind of a pioneer project. And everyone, I just remember the excitement around the idea. And of course, I'm coming out of college, I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Professional soccer wasn't, I guess the first year of the MLS was also that year, but that the league was very, very small at that time. So I thought, hey, I'm in my hometown and I can play professional soccer in front of the community I grew up playing in. That's ideal. I don't think it gets any better than that. And that's kind of what I thought about it. So, when the idea of signing a contract came up, it was pretty much a no-brainer.
Now, what was that first training camp like? There were some local guys, and if you look at this team picture, you'll see some of those local guys. Matt Coyer is a local guy. Mike Sloan's a local guy. A non-local guy is Oswaldo Monroy, who almost always watches and is on is a previous guest on the show, who says, hello, my friend. Let's meet sometime. Ozzy, good to see you as well. What was that camp like? Everybody was trying to make the team, trying to make things better. For you, you're the rookie trying to show that you can play, and it's a completely new game for you. What was that like?
It was wild. environment was full of people that I had known growing up. Mike Sloan was my high school coach. You know, McNabb, I'd seen him on the club field all the time. Matt Blackburn was an opponent in college. He played for Evansville. Coyer was a teammate, you know. So it was one of those things where, you know, it was pretty much the neighborhood showed up to try out for the team, along with some people that we didn't know. And so, you know, I think the way they held the tryouts is they kept it locally based and advanced the people who made up through the time when some of the veterans would come in. And so I remember thinking, you know, wow, this is a few of the IU guys were there too. I remember Dave Wright and a few other people. But it was, you know, it was like playing with your friends again, you know, but now you get to play in front of the city potentially. And so it was exciting. It was, it helped put me at ease a bit because, you know, the people who are there, but also I remember feeling like I had something to prove because, you know, you're trying out for a team that plays professionally. And so you got to show that you can do it.
And Jorge Espinoza was a demanding coach, but you had just spent 4 years playing for a pretty demanding coach in Indiana as well. So, I mean, was that hard for you? A hard transition?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Jorge's style. He was very firm, but like you said, the energy at IU was also the environment was also very competitive, and so to that degree, it was a smooth transition, and I appreciated Jorge's approach. You know, he was very in your face, very. You got to get it done. And the only way to get it done is 100%, you know? So I think he was a very, very good coach for that team, in setting the tone for what it meant to be a professional with a new team. And so it was a good environment. I think IU in that respect, 100% prepared me for the style of coaching that Jorge had, for sure.
And as a local guy and a name player too, you were a big part of the marketing. This poster has been on my wall of this office here for the last 15 or so years. Did you expect that this was going to be a big deal?
No, I didn't really, you know, coming out of college and coming into this project, it felt very entrepreneurial, you know, in terms of the whole team. Everybody was trying to figure it out. And it just felt like a pioneer project you were taking on with a bunch of people. And I didn't know what it meant to take a picture in the indoor facility for the team. I didn't know how it would be used. It was just, hey, come, you got to do this. All right, you know, let's do it. So
welcome to pro soccer, kid.
Yeah, it was a good time.
So after a rough outing in the first game in Detroit, the team was very competitive, but it was tough to close out teams and get wins. And you finally did beat Houston, but as a new team, other teams that had played together could finish out games. It was tough going attendance-wise. Market Square Arena was a great building, but was there a point where maybe you thought, well, this is maybe a struggle for us?
You know, I didn't. When you're on the field and in training sessions with a group everyone's working hard. Everyone, you know, maintains this level of professionalism and enjoys playing. Plus, I'm in my home city. Every time you step on the field, you feel like, hey, this is our chance to win. I think also everyone understood that this was a first-year team with a lot of people who did not have experience in this league. And so for me, the optimism kind of outweighed maybe reality. I was just having fun being out there, and I knew, you know, if we just kept working, we'd eventually get better.
You mentioned Joel Shanker a bit ago. We saw him. I knew he would make an appearance in this show at that point. We talked about Jorge Espinosa as a demanding coach, but his system, not just the diet, which Ozzy's talked about and everybody who was involved has talked about, the training regimen, but how you guys played on the field. And we're going to take a look at a game here in Detroit, and you can see how the system turns defense into offense and also turns high pressure into a goal. You can narrate what happens on this because this is your first professional goal. And Monty Reeves, who was our last guest, really made this happen with his hustle.
That's right. Jorge was very much about high pressing the other team as far up the field as you can, trying to win the ball as far up the field as you can. And, this required tons of fitness. And, I think the idea behind his approach was we had a young team, people who could run a lot. And, to the extent we play against, there's a goal. To the extent we play against veterans, maybe we can outwork them. I do remember this goal. I remember coming around on that run. It didn't happen too often, but I thought, hey, if I just make the run, maybe the ball shows up. And it sure did. It was right there. I have longer legs than Joel Shanker too, so I was able to get there first. He's a good athlete, very quick. I got lucky on that one.
And now, obviously, throughout your career, goal scoring, that wasn't your role, but in the indoor game, anybody can be an offensive player, and you were able to you look pretty much the same, dude. Look at that guy.
Right, same haircut.
Yeah. Everybody got that haircut that first year. So not long after this, though, the league took over the team. What was that period of time like where the owners pulled out, after they were obviously struggling for a while? And what were you guys thinking? Ozzy said, and Monty said, everybody really stayed close together and tried not to worry about it. But it's really hard when that's your first example of professional soccer is, the owners have left.
Yeah. And it was sad to see, but we kind of heard the rumblings in the upcoming weeks. And I tell you what was really helpful for me, and I don't remember specifics, but Rich Ryerson, who I know you had on the podcast a few weeks ago, he was the veteran at the time on the team, and he was just a very, very, in my opinion, good leader. In that kind of stressful moment where people were wondering what was happening, I remember kind of he was kind of like a steady force. Hey, this happens. Let's just keep playing. And so I really looked up to his leadership at that time as a professional. So I think we had the benefit of having a good captain, a good team leader in Rich to help us, keep in perspective what it meant to be a player, going through a transition at that moment.
Now, still, the team really stayed together. You won 2 out of the last 3, all of them on the road. Right towards the end, new owners took over. As you look back on that rookie season, and I know you were injured in some spots because you did color with me on some of the broadcasts. Yep. How would you assess that rookie year of yours all told at indoor?
You know what? I enjoy it. It went by like a flash. It was a learning experience, going from outdoor to indoor and playing at a professional level, and your life is soccer. We practice, like a runny nose. We practiced twice a day, pretty much, the whole season, which was odd. I was just enjoying the experience. We didn't have the best record, but everyone was working hard, and I was just enjoying it. It was fun sitting with you also in the chair.
You got to
go through those games. That was pretty fun.
You got to put that telecommunications degree to work.
Oh, that's right.
All right. Well, George was the first player in team history, but it didn't last. What happened next is after the break. You're watching Let's Twist Again.
Continental Indoor Soccer League action heats up this summer as the world's best indoor players compete across the United States and Mexico. Star players include three-time CISL scoring champion Tattoo, the 95 CISL playoff MVP Zizinho, and all-star goalkeeper Brett Phillips. You'll see great defense and high scoring all within the confines of a hockey rink. Don't miss a second of the action. The Continental Indoor Soccer League, ahead above the rest.
We're with George Crawford, the MVP of the game. Scored the first goal in Blast history. How's it feel, George?
It was exciting. I'm kind of sad that the outcome at the end of the game wasn't a little, better, but the goal was exciting. I saw it coming all the way in the air, and I just felt it the whole way through. Yeah.
What did Jimmy tell you at halftime that helped the boys pick up the pace there in the second half?
Well, I think what we were doing first half was dropping off of them a little too much and giving their midfield a little too much of the play. They would get the ball wide to their wide backs and then to their wide midfielders, and we were caught kind of in no man's land. So he told us to step up the pressure earlier on the ball, which would cause them to turn the ball over further in their half, further in their defensive end. And I think it worked pretty well.
How's it feel to play outdoor professional ball in your hometown?
Oh, it's great. It's excellent. I mean, the atmosphere, I know there's a lot of cup games going on today, but the atmosphere at the first game, the atmosphere here at the second game was excellent.
All right, George, thanks a lot. Best of luck next week.
Thank you.
Ken, back to you.
Thank you, Chris Baker from 1997. We're back on Let's Twist Again. I'm Ken Tomash. If you have questions or comments for George Crawford, put them in the chat wherever you are watching this. I have a question. How many of you are interested in a potential 30-year Twister reunion in Las Vegas next year? It was Matt Blackburn's idea, and Rich Ryerson has lived in Vegas for years. I'm close. I can get there. George, you're close. You could get there. What do you think about a 30-year reunion next year?
I'm in. Yeah, I'm in for it. That would be fun. It would be great to see those guys. I'm connected many of them on social media, and it's nice to see everybody living a good life and having fun. It'd be great to see everybody in person again.
That's why we do this, partially to catch up and keep ourselves connected and see what everybody's been up to. Scott Lawler, who was also a guest on the show, says good to see and hear you. Hi, Scott. Good to see you too. Always a pleasure to catch up with everybody. So your career with the Twisters was just that one season. You were one of several players who did not return in 1997. Why was that?
So the Blast was coming into town, and it was an outdoor team, and it seemed to me that the future of a soccer career in the city would be with an outdoor team. Indoor was fun, but it wasn't what we were used to when we think of soccer, and so the idea of playing outside again was attractive. And it just so happened that the Blast was there at the right time, right place. And now the pitch was the same, but different. So the pitch was, hey, we can grow the outdoor game here in the city. And so it was with the same level of enthusiasm that I could, change teams, stay at home in my hometown and play the game I love in front of the city, in front of the community.
If you look, George is third from left in the back row, and in third from left on the front row is your younger brother, Lauren. The chance to play with Lauren, I don't know if because you guys are separated in age, you may not have ever played much together as kids growing up, but this was a great opportunity to do that.
That's right. We were always, so in high school, I graduated his freshman year coming in, so we didn't get a chance to play then. We played in some men's leagues, rec league teams during the off seasons, and that was fun. But yeah, playing with him was amazing. And I will probably come back to it later. My final game as a professional was against Lauren. I was in Cincinnati. He was with the Blast. And so that was I think he continued playing. I can't remember, but that was my final game. So it was a good time. We played, we actually lined up against each other on the same side of the field. He came in as a sub in the second half. I had started the game. I was a little tired, so I was worried, to be candid, because I'd played against my brother, in the backyard my whole life, and he's a good player. He's quick,
very
shifty, and now we're playing against, people, and I couldn't let them get the best of me. So that was a good time. That was a memorable experience.
We saw your first pro indoor goal earlier in the show. Let's look here at your first professional outdoor goal. It turns out to have been the first one in Blast history, off the corner kick by the immortal Matt Gosto. You always had hops, man. You got up high on this one to put it home, just what you're taught to do.
I remember that goal. It felt like I jumped out of the stadium. We had about 13 seconds left when we lined up for the corner kick, and the clock was behind the ball, so I could see the clock counting down. He put the ball up in the air, and I just said, I'm going to go get it, wherever it is. And it ended up being in the right place. I connected well on it. It was a good feeling. It was a good feeling.
And one of the first guys to hug you there, the aforementioned Ernie Yarbrough, who hopefully is watching. Here, let's take one more look at how high you got up on this. Some of these games were broadcast that first year. I was happy enough to do those with Dan Capsalis, who was my partner in the indoor game as well. But here, you're way up over and headed it down the way you're supposed to against the Rockford Raptors.
The headers, getting up for the ball, ended up being a strength of mine. I learned the technique, believe it or not, was at IU soccer camp when I was a kid. We would always have these film sessions, and one of the films we watched was a film of Pele juggling, and it's like a documentary film. And he said something that I remembered. He said, to win a head ball, you just have to jump before your opponent. And so I thought, okay, that makes sense. And so and he said, meet the ball at the highest point of your jump, those two things. And I remembered that, and that's all I did. And it was successful. It helped.
Another former teammate weighing in, JC Reza himself. Good player, better person. Thanks, here. He religiously watches. We always count on Reza to be here. Now, a week later, you scored a different goal in a different way. You seem very comfortable getting back indoors. Let's look at this one against the Chicago Stingers, where this is more like being in front and being able to finish.
Yeah, I think I was in a midfield position during that game and just made a run forward on a ball played across. I remember it getting to me unexpectedly. It bounced through a couple players and just kind of right in front of me. And I stuck my toe out and poked it in. So that was a fun time. I do remember that as well. Those uniforms were crazy.
Yeah, I still have one of those. I don't have yours, but I do have Nick Yusanovich's somewhere around here, and I made the mistake of washing it, and the numbers came off. So that team scuffled a bit, but got really hot late and almost made it to the Final Four. Had to fly the day of the game to go to Charlotte to play, and it was not a good scene. But the '98 team that you were also on was a very good team. Went 15-3 in the league. Scored a bunch of goals, and at this point, the Twisters were done. You're the only team in town. How much fun was that summer of 1998 with a good team? Again, you're playing with your brother, you're playing with friends, people you've known for a while, local guys, and it was a World Cup year to boot.
That felt good. That at Indiana in college, we had a lot of success, and so those first 2 years as a pro were different. So it felt good to walk around, be around a group that had a similar level of confidence walking into the game, and this idea that we're gonna win when we step on the field. And when you're winning, it brings a lot of fun and energy to the training ground as well. And so it was just a good time. It was a good time, and I'm happy that we enjoyed that success that year.
You talk about colorful uniforms. And these photographs were courtesy of the great Ken Gilbert. Rough and tumble. This was when D3 was really rough and tumble. It was an experience in the D3 Pro League.
Yeah.
Now, but between Well, let's close the loop here on the Blast. The Blast moved up to the A League in 1999, and several players did not return. You among them. Was that a decision you made, or was that just one of the things that happens in a numbers game in soccer?
Yeah, no, it was a little bit goofy. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think I had an injury kind of late in the year and didn't play as much. I also had a few concussions. Starting at Indiana, but I think that year I had a pretty bad one in a game against Chicago, up in Chicago, and so I didn't finish the season, and then the next year, I talked to Jimmy, and he said, "Hey, we're all set. We don't need you," but I ended up signing with Cincinnati that year and finished my career there in the A League. And that was the year we played against the Blast in the final game. And that was fun. That was a good time. I remember that, playing against your brother, your last game is special. It was good.
Now, between the Twisters and the Blast, you played for a little known indoor team called the Columbus Invaders. Now, for those who don't know, the Invaders began life as the Canton Invaders, Canton, Ohio. They were the first dynasty of the league that became the NPSL. They won 5 of the first 6 titles. But by 1996, they were in dire straits, and a Columbus businessman named Mo Hassan bought them and moved them to Ohio's capital. Now, George, you did not play in this game, but this is about the only digital evidence that exists that the Columbus Invaders actually were a thing. This is a game that year at Bell Hall against the Cleveland Crunch. And unfortunately, the Invaders are legendary as one of the worst teams ever. You were one of 47 players to play for this team. That might be a record.
Yeah.
The team lost its first 10, 20 of the last 21. And there were a lot of Indiana connections on this team, too. The late Neil Gilbert was on that team. Drew Callahan, who would play for the Twisters in 97, was on that team. Willie Merrick, Chris Duff, Emeka Moname, Chad James, and Eric Nichols would go on to play for the Blast. Tell us about playing for one of the worst teams in history.
Yeah. It was, it may sound counterintuitive, but surprisingly it was fun. So the NPSL league was in the winter. And so Martinez was his last name. He was a goalkeeper. He came in late with the Twisters.
Oh, Chuck Martini. We'll see.
Chuck Martini. Yeah. So he ended up going to be a player coach after the Twister season in Columbus. And so he called a bunch of us and said, "Hey, listen, this will keep you fit until the spring. Why don't you come and play?" And so me and Baroni Richardson, we went and played with them, and we met, Chris Duff and Drew Callahan. We were all teammates together. And it was it was like if a camera were following us around, it would be like a movie. It was fun, oftentimes comical. It was frantic. It was disorganized, but you're playing soccer. You're waking up, and you get paid to play the game. So it was fun in that regard.
But I mean, as much as the troubles the Twisters had in '96, they were nothing compared to the kind of shenanigans that went on with this team. Tell us about at least one of those.
Yeah, we didn't get to know the owner very much. We saw him periodically, but when we saw him was usually on payday, and the handing over of the check started the biggest race to the bank that you've ever seen. People would grab the check waiting at the same time and speed to the bank, because if you didn't get there, if you weren't one of the first 5 or 6 players there, then you'd have to wait until the business transferred money to pay your salary. So it became fun. It became kind of a joking event, but it was a good time.
you're part of history too, in that you were on this team that lost 52-18 to the Cleveland Crunch. That is under the multi-point scoring system the MPSL had, the most points ever allowed. You had a goal and assist in this game. Hoo-hoo! But that must have been maybe the low point of low points. And otherwise, an otherwise fun pick up, run around with your friends type of season.
Yeah, it was. It was, no one likes to be a part of that. And I remember them having what felt like a packed stadium, and maybe it felt packed because we were losing in that manner. But, it's one of those experiences that I won't forget. And I look back at with, and grin at now, the Cleveland Crunch ran this kind of isolation offense. They had Zoran Karic and
Hector
another
Marinero.
player. What's that?
Hector Marinero,
who were just magicians with the ball. And in that game, I would mark Zorn or Hector, and they would isolate us on one side of the field, and I defend him. And you have all these people, cheering, expecting a goal, and so it was just a very intense game and time. Fortunately, I don't think he scored on me, not during those ISOs, but they certainly had plenty of opportunities to score other than that.
So you mentioned going to Cincinnati after the blast, and then you were only 27 when you hung them up. Why did you decide, it's time to put soccer away? And was that a hard decision?
It was. I wanted to continue playing. My father had become accustomed to pregame speech, which included, "George, don't head the ball." At this point, I had maybe double digits concussions. Not all major events, but I had a lot of them. Starting at IU, and then not much in the indoor game, of course, because the game, the ball's on the floor. But when we got back outside, I had a few, and so the question became, how smart is it to continue playing and putting myself at risk? So, I spoke with my family about it, and decided, maybe it's time to relax from the playing and start coaching.
Which you did. You were a volunteer coach at Butler for a while, Butler University in Indianapolis, while working in the real world. But for the last 25 years or so, you've been working outside of soccer. Tell us what you do now.
That's right. So I'm in commercial real estate now. I'm a broker, so I arrange real estate deals between corporations, and it's a much more fun talking about soccer. It's but I tell you what, this job require a lot of people who are ex-athletes work in this field. Mm-hmm. It is competitive. It requires a good work ethic, and it requires all the things that playing on a team sport at a high level require. Working under pressure, really having to outwork your competition, being able to work in a team, work together with various personalities. It does remind me a lot of being in the locker room or on the field, working in this job, and maybe that's what draws me to it so much.
Now, George referenced his parents. Big George and Barbara are two of the best people you will ever meet. And now you have your own family. Tell us about Beth and Parker, who I got to meet last week.
Yes. So Beth and I were married in 2017. We dated since 2012. We met, and she was living here in Los Angeles, and I was in Indy. So we dated long distance for a few years. And, we got married in 2017. Parker was born in 2019. And she's 5 now, and she's just a ball of energy, and she's so fun. And so she's playing soccer, and I coach at this in my neighborhood at the club, here, and she has joined the youngers program there, and she loves it. She'll come out and watch me coach my team, and then she'll come home and make me go in the backyard and practice with her. So the three of us are just having a good time.
It's fun to see and makes me feel a little bit old. I see Monty's kids are both his son is in college. His daughter is high school. They're both very good players. Your daughter has picked up the game. When I'm starting to see the sons and daughters of guys who are on this team start to pick up the game, A, it makes me wistful, but B, it makes me realize that, man, I'm really, really old. So now it is time for the ever popular one crazy story. Anybody who has been around this game for long enough has plenty of crazy stories about this game. So give us just one.
So this was in Columbus. We were going to play in Buffalo, New York. We had a game in Buffalo, New York. And we get in the van. The van comes to pick us up. There were two 15 passenger vans that we were taking. And we realized that a couple players were missing. So we started scrambling, thinking, okay, well, we need to find a player, a couple players that can play with us. So we went over and we found, I think it was Drew Callahan's roommate at the time, who was an ex-college player, came with us. He rostered as some other player. But on our drive to Buffalo, New York, we drove through a blizzard, if you can imagine, in a 15-passenger van. The players were driving, and everyone was napping. And all I remember is waking up on the roof of the van. We had gone through a blizzard, and the van veered off the road into oncoming traffic, flipped over in the median of the highway. And and so the van following us, the second van pulled over, and all of us woke up. Everybody got out of the van in this freezing cold blizzard and lifted it back up onto its wheels. We had to roll it by hand, roll it over back onto its wheels. And we finished the trip to Buffalo and played in the game.
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that. It was, it's something that won't happen often ever, but it was crazy. It was wild.
And nobody was hurt.
Nope, nobody was hurt. And we ended up laughing about it. But that's just kind of like an example of how that experience was playing with the Invaders. It was very, it was almost like you have your men's league team playing in a professional league, trying to keep it going. It was wild. It was fun.
All right. Last thing, George, it's been almost 30 years since an indoor team that was only around for 2 years, that you only played for one, was around, yet we are still connected. What is it about this team that you look at here? You can see yourself there standing in between Rich and Mirko Castillo. What makes that such a special time for you when you think back on this 3 decades later?
It was something new. It was we were trying to, in Indianapolis, make professional soccer stick. And it would just happen to be at the same time when, the broader soccer community was starting the MLS, and everyone was all about, hey, how big can we make this game? And so we were a small piece of that, and that felt good. I think that connects. I think that connects this group. But also, this group played in a community, Indianapolis, that, if you're a sports fan in Indianapolis, you understand that they support the hometown, the home team. They do. And so I think everyone there felt like they were a member of this community and felt the love. It was great.
All right, George, I know you got to get to coaching. Thanks so much for spending time with us here on Let's Twist Again.
Thank you, Ken.
All right. Now, so because of the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday, our next show is going to be a little bit earlier in the month than it might normally be. So join us on Monday, November 10th at 8 Eastern. You may not recognize our guest without his trademark flowing locks, but yes, the ever talkative and ever entertaining Mirko Castillo will be our guest next time. You certainly won't want to fail to enjoy not missing that. Thanks for being with us tonight. The vast majority of podcasts never make it to 5 episodes. We just did. Thank you all. We'll see you next time on Let's Twist Again.